Hey folks, Tony here, and today I wanted to sit down and talk a little bit about the games I've been playing and why I've been playing them. My relationship with video games has changed quite a bit. I mean, since I started playing games as a kid, but definitely more recently, since I sort of retired from doing YouTube, especially from the era where I was actually doing it as a job, as a thing that paid the bills. That period of my life in relationship to video games was very different. It was very much driven by, a certain demand to create more consistent content, if you will, to cover something that, yes, I enjoyed, but that I also knew I could continue to create large, detailed, extensive amounts of content for, to maintain an audience. A large part of my existence was, making Titanfall content and doing fun Titanfall guide things and silly videos and streams related to it. And then eventually I moved on to covering some other games I was excited for, like Anthem, rest in peace, Lawbreakers, purveyor of dead games here to some extent for sure. So yeah, my relationship with games was very much driven by, in a sense, the forward movement of time. If I could go back, I would definitely have done things differently. Because that era of YouTube, I think, where I could have done the things that I want to do now, at least as far as doing it for a living, like I was trying to do back then, is kind of gone, in my opinion. It's so algorithm heavy, algorithm driven, people changing the titles of their videos like multiple times a day. The thumbnails is the only way to get their videos to get views. It's a fucking nightmare, right? But I'm like so far away from that now. I am a full-time dad currently. Very big life transition for me, and it's been a blast despite everything else happening in the fucking world. Raising my daughter has been like a genuine joy, but it's also given me a chance to sort of look at games differently, to seek out new creative outlets in life, if you will. Raising a kid is one thing, but there's still a part of me that like yearns for, doing things for myself, right? Things that I deeply enjoy. You would think that like, just talking about games on YouTube would still be a big part of that, but it's been very difficult for me to sit down and like do that again. There's a lot of attached emotions and, just everything in relation to my past time on YouTube, as well as the sort of cesspool that I think the platform is today. And, very much it's just like anti-creator in every possible way, right? So the idea of even considering to make content for it, even for myself, is one that is difficult for me. So instead, I've kind of turned to just playing lots of games again, but more specifically playing lots of games in genres that I've never really sunk serious time into, or that I've never dabbled in at all. That has become like a really fun thing for me. It's like a part of the human condition, right? We like to learn new things. I think a lot of us really enjoy the process of learning often more than we do, the end result of like knowing how to do the thing, right? The learning can often be extremely fun, which is a funny thing to say to my adult self, because childhood Tony hated school, hated like almost everything that came with it. I just wanted to go ride my BMX bike in the trails and at the skate park and, like play paintball with my friends, right? I wanted nothing to do with that. But these days I find learning much more enjoyable. And when you can learn inside of a video game, I mean, come on, that's a big win there, right? I love teaching myself guitar, for example, but hey, if I can sit down and play a game with some friends who live far away, and, teach myself something new, perhaps alongside of a friend who is already familiar with those things, then I'm like, I'm hitting on a lot of cool things, and managing to merge them all together, especially as a dad who doesn't, have all the time he once had, being able to sit down, learn a new game, the satisfaction that comes with that and progressing and becoming better at it, and then also do it alongside of long distance friends and have that, sort of long distance social interaction that's checking a lot of boxes for me. And so that's been a really big way that I think I've maintained a lot of my sanity, especially during the crummier winter months here on the East Coast, when it's a little bit harder to get outside and touch the grass, if you will. So I really grew up playing a lot of, like platformer stuff, NES stuff, but my prime years were very much like first-person games, first-person shooters, obviously, lots of Halo, eventually Gears of War, The Elder Scrolls, shout-outs to the Oblivion remaster, that shit is crushing it. I definitely dabbled in other things, strategy games here and there, but for the most part, it was like the mainstream adventure stuff and a lot of first-person shooters and eventually a lot of racing games. As I've gotten older, I've taken more interest in turn-based strategy games, real-time strategy games, grand strategy games, 4X stuff, but I've kind of always struggled to really stick into that. And so the last few years, I've spent a lot of time just like really heavily committing to playing games from that genre, playing games outside of my comfort zone. You're seeing a lot of footage right now, I probably should have explained at the beginning, from old school RuneScape. I know this kind of like fits, I guess you could say, into like the adventure genre, but not really. Old school RuneScape is like a beast in its own right, but there are a lot of things that I really love about old school RuneScape, from a viewer perspective and from, like a sideline perspective. And so this past week, I decided to really try and play it. It seems like a really bad pick for someone who is a full-time dad, but, honestly, being able to just like pluck away at it and make really small amounts of progress is something that I still find enjoyable. Like, I just kind of mined the other day while the kiddo was away at the grandparents, in between doing chores around the house and, getting dinner ready. I just was, I'll go over here, I'll mine, I'll walk away, it'll log me out, I'll log back in, I'll go do the thing. And all the while kind of starting to learn this game and sort of understand how it works. Because for me, up until this point, RuneScape has been something that I've enjoyed purely as a viewer. I've watched way too many settled videos at this point. They don't really teach you how to play the game, in case you're wondering, but they do give you, a certain view into the world of old school RuneScape, and I think that's what very much led to my infatuation with the game in the first place. And I've bounced back and forth a little bit, trying like a few hours of RuneScape 3 and going back to old school RuneScape. Now I'm playing it via RuneLite with, like some little tweaks here and there. I'm playing it on an ultra-wide monitor, which is maybe the most heinous and hilarious thing you could do. So sorry for like everything you're seeing as far as the HUD goes. It's the best I could get it to look, and a lot of you are like, this is madness, but I don't know, it's just how I am. Sorry. But I find like sort of the depth and pacing of old school RuneScape to be really satisfying. There is a sort of mechanical density, to it, a stretching out of time. In most other games, the things that you would do inside of old school RuneScape would take you like a 16th to a quarter of the time, or even less. I think actually Dragon Wilds, the recent RuneScape entry into the survival crafting games, is a great example of that, right? I mean, I played a little bit of that, and some friends who really are big OSRS people were watching me play, and they're laughing. They're like, how is the furnace so close to the anvil? Stuff like that. And you don't really know what they mean until you are like scouring the locations around Lumbridge and whatnot, trying to like find the best route to optimize your early game smithing and mining levels, just because you told yourself you wanted to make some iron armor as like a first little goal while doing some questing. There's something about that, though. I guess what some people would describe as tedium, I kind of find enjoyable. And maybe it's a reason why I have such an infatuation with games like Escape from Tarkov. I think the tedium, to me, kind of, I don't know, maybe gives more weight to the experience. Maybe I'm just a little silly. But there's something about those things I find satisfying, and I would rather spend, like, maybe the couple hours I have every night, or even less, to play a game, bumbling around, in Lumbridge, trying to figure out how to even do a quest, or how to make that next step, or how to organize my inventory and Escape from Tarkov, than potentially spend like multiple hours playing something more simple. Not that I don't enjoy those simple experiences at times, but there's just something about the more mechanically complex things that I have recently found very satisfying. You know, I think we can all kind of maybe trace our path into certain hobbies or certain, you know, styles of things that we enjoy. It's rarely just like a we dumped in head first, right? I mean, that can happen for sure. Sometimes you just take an interest in things and you just send it, but often there's like a little road, right? A little stepping stone, the breadcrumbs you followed that led you there, whether it was watching someone play the game or playing something adjacent in which that thing was then recommended. We kind of bumble ourselves there, and before we know it, we're ordering old school RuneScape journals and maps of Gilnor and Dwarf Fortress guidebooks, which I'm holding in my hand right now. I like physical things, okay? It's just the way I am. So yeah, you know, there's a lot more we could talk about as far as some of the other genres that I've messed around with. Played actually a really good amount of StarCraft 2 and Stormgate. Got really big into Beyond All Reason recently with some friends. You know, diving into the whole like strategy side of things. Played some Age of Empires. Just kind of trying to play it all enough and find out what I really love and see what I bounce off of. See what I maybe decide to come back to and give another chance. All while, of course, still being incredibly obsessed with first-person shooters. Man, I wish I was in the Marathon Alpha right now. Bungie, please. But that's it for me today, folks. I just wanted to sit down and have a little ramble like I used to. And, you know, I'd love to say that maybe I'll try and do one of these every single week. But I just know that that's not something I can promise myself or all of you. Maybe every now and then I'll do this. I will say that I am still obsessively taking tons and tons of screenshots, video game photography, whatever people want to call it this day, game capture nonsense. If you're interested in that thing, hey, you can follow me over on Blue Sky. I post tons of screenshots still, like hundreds of the games I'm playing. And that's kind of where I output most of my enjoyment or discussion around the games I play these days. It's just, I don't have it in me to do like full videos on anything, but I do love just taking screenshots of the beautiful worlds that are still being made in video games to this day. Take care of yourselves out there, folks. If you'd like to share a little story about, I don't know, something new you dove into recently, whether it's video game related or not, hey, maybe you picked up an instrument or, I don't know, got into racing RC cars post-COVID, you know, whatever it might be, whatever recent little creative outlet or venture has helped you stay a little bit happier, I'd love to hear about it. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and maybe I'll see you all around.